So what do you do when your cucumbers are taking over? Well, that was a real pickle, wasn't it? For any of you that know me well enough, the kids have dubbed me Queen of all corny jokes. You're just gonna have to live with it. So our cucumbers went a little crazy this year, and I'm blaming the cucumbers, not the 60+ plants I planted. So we have a lot of cucumbers this year. One of the things that I truly love is a good deli pickle. It reminds me of my grams when I was little. We used to go to a delicatessen that had the best pickles. And besides the taste, I really like just getting them out of the barrel. I thought that was really cool. But it never dawned on me as I got older and I would go to the cold case or the canned, the pickles that are on the store shelf, I couldn't find that flavor that I was looking for. Seriously, just recently it hit me when I was determined with our crop to find that recipe. They're fermented. That's why I couldn't get that crunch, that flavor that's just different. Now the other pickles on the store shelves are just as good. I made garlic pickles, fire and ice pickles, bread and butter pickles, all kinds of pickles last year, but they weren't deli pickles. So what do we need for deli pickles? You're gonna find it's pretty simple. I'd like to go over the cropware first because I have a little bit of everything. I've been fermenting for about 6 years on and off now, depending on where we were moving and what kind of time I had. And now that we're on the homestead and things are starting to be more organized, I plan on getting back into fermenting. You can ferment too much. I did last year ferment far too much food and ended up having to compost it, so I'm trying to reel back a little bit this year, but not with the pickles. So what do I have? A little bit of everything. You can start with just your mason jars. And I know you're saying, oh my goodness, that's a smallmouth jar. Yes, if you're using a smaller pickle, like catching your Boston pickling pickles when they're a little bit smaller. I've heard people sing the praises of Kirby pickles, or cucumbers, sorry. Those are all great. They fit in here just fine. You want to pack them in tightly, and as they ferment, they'll be easier to get out down the road. So don't feel you have to rush out and buy something new. Just use what you have and see if you like the recipe first before you rush out and do something like, oh, I don't know, get a 7-liter crock like this, which is what I typically make our sauerkraut in. And I also have another vegetable recipe that uses carrots and onions and other things that I'll show you down the road what that fermented vegetable is. It's delicious. But you've also got your wide mouth jars. I have 1 and 2 gallon crocks that I also love to use. This happens to be one of the 2 gallon crocks, and I'll link below in the show notes where I purchased everything. These are the weights. You're going to need weights for your recipe here. The pickles must be submerged under the water in order for the ferment to properly take care of them. So the smaller bottles here. Oh, and you'll need a lid. You can use a dish plate or what have you, but obviously this comes with the lid. The larger one also comes with the weights. This was separate. I had to buy the lid separate, the weight separate, and the crock separate. And the mason jars, same thing. You get your mason jars, and you can get these lovely little glass weights, and I use those for the smaller batches if I'm testing something. And then for these, you would just want to use a pickle pipe, and you can get them in either the small mouth or the large mouth. So that's kind of the things you would need. If you don't have a pickle pipe and you don't want to invest the money in it, and you have some weighted item that would fit inside your mason jar, just use that and put cheesecloth over the top. Really, you don't have to go crazy buying a bunch of stuff to have this happen. Let's face it, the folks before us didn't have all these great things in Amazon on their iPhone, so they were able to do this without a lot of the stuff we have. But these conveniences do make it quicker and easier for those of us that have busy homesteads. All right, so you can see my pickles, or my cucumbers, have gotten kind of ginormous, but I was okay. This is a market more. This is sort of what you see in the grocery store, and I'm okay with pickles this big. Mr. Blue Jeans and I will just split this in half and share it at a lunch, or we'll slice it up for hamburgers. Everybody's having hamburgers or hot dogs that night or what have you. Most normal people will probably want something this size or smaller, but do what you like. It really is up to you. You can see I've got pickles of all sorts here, ready to go. Cucumbers. Come on guys, help me here. Cucumber. They're not pickles yet, but we're excited about getting them there. So the basic brine is quite simple. You want 3 quarts of filtered water. Don't use tap water. You want filtered water. I'm going to put my last quart in, 3 quarts. And again, the recipe will be in show notes, and I'll also have it as a printable on my blog, so you can print the recipe from the blog if you like. So, 3 quarts of water for your brine. Then you want a quarter cup of sea salt. Now I love Redmond's natural sea salt. You can use kosher salt, any sea salt that you're happy with, but I do like Redmond's. So you put that in there. You want to dissolve that as well. Set this aside. So you want to get that dissolved, and once your sea salt is dissolved, you're going to want to add half a cup of white vinegar. And this is your brine mix. Don't you love these flip top bottles? I love them. All right, so there's the half a cup of white vinegar. All right, so it's as easy as that. Your brine is ready to go. Now it's a matter of dry ingredients. This are the ratios that I enjoy. Now, this amount will get you about 30 pickles of the normal size done. You're gonna have about four to six mason jars if you go this route. I did mine in the bigger crock and was able to fit them all in here. Just trying to give you an idea, depending again on your pickle size. The thing about this is I don't know how many you want to make, and I don't know how large the cucumbers are. So we're just going to go with the basic brine, and as you go from there, if they're not covered in brine, just make another round of it or cut it in half or what have you. It's pretty foolproof. You just want to make sure your ratios on water, salt, and vinegar are the same, and then play with your seasonings. Start with what I give you and amp some up or pull some back, whatever you like to do. If you're doing it in separate jars, let's say you've got 8 jars that you're going to end up filling, you'd want to individually put, what we have here is our garlic grown in the garden. So you'd have 8 cloves. Each jar would get a clove. Again, in my case, I'll be doing them in this crock. So my garlic will be going in the large crock. You want to put your cucumbers in first, then your dry seasonings and herbs. So to start a normal size, you want 8 cloves of garlic. You can certainly do more. You want 14 sprigs of dill. Use the stems, use the flower heads, use it all. You want 5 medium-sized bay leaves. You're going to want a half a teaspoon of brown mustard and a half a teaspoon of yellow mustard. Let me get those out right now. Now again, I'm taking these out and putting it all in one crock, which to me makes it easier. My thought is, if you're going to do a smaller mason jar, I would put all of these things together in a bowl, mix them up, and then over each one put in the amount that you would cut it into to fit the 6 or 8 or however many jars you plan on fermenting. And also a half a teaspoon of your pepper flakes, red pepper flakes. You can omit this, you don't have to have this. We are a spicy family, we like a little bit of heat. And with that many pickles, you really don't feel the heat in it. Let's see, you also want, which is already in here, a tablespoon of black peppercorns, and I like to do a tablespoon of caraway seed. Now I also have over here, if you don't have fresh dill, you could use dill seed, which was what I have here, and I'm just going to add a half teaspoon because why not? They are dill pickles, or more, depending on what you want to do. And you could probably use dried dill as well. I've never been in the position that I've had to do that, but experiment. That's the fun thing about this kind of a process. It's all a really cool experiment. So once you patch your pickles into whatever vessel it is that you're going to use, and you put your dry seasonings on top, and in each one, and then you put in your sprigs of dill and your garlic and your bay leaves. You'll go ahead and you'll pour your brine over the top of each to cover. You'll put on your weight, or your weight, depending on how big we're going here. And then, like I said, either a pickle pipe, if that's the way you're going on a mason jar, just testing this out and giving it a try, or cheesecloth if you don't have these. If you're not familiar with these larger crocks, these are great. This one's from Poland. It's nice. I've had it 6 years, I believe. And what's cool about these is it has like a little gully down here, right down here. And as your ferment is bubbling, it catches any water that's released. If you're really into fermenting, this is something to look at down the road. It makes the best sauerkraut, just phenomenal. So once you put everything in and you're ready to go and your weights are on and your pickle pipes or your cheesecloth or whatever it is that's your cover, in this case for this crock, I just use this cover. You want to put it in a room that's 65 to 70 degrees, okay? And then after 24 hours, you want to lift up the lid and check and make sure that your cucumbers turning pickles are submerged. If they're not, just pop them back down, rearrange your weight. You want to make sure that they are submerged. As days go by, you'll see some foam on top. You can remove it. I don't, but if it bothers you, you can remove it. It's just part of the fermenting process. And after about 5 days, it's a good idea to taste. You got about a half sour pickle. And when I say sour, it's not this. It's those deli pickles, which never really caught you right here. They just had this full flavor. So at about 5 days, I taste mine. I tend to run to 10 days. I like it 9 to 10 days. You still have a Christmas. That's in 6 months. Oh no, a crispness to them. But I like the fuller flavor that you get at a 10-day pickle. Then you would remove them from your crocks, and at that point, you can put them in mason jars and refrigerate them. You should get about 6 months out of them if they keep around. In my case, with the bigger pickles that I have, I tend to put them in just large self-closing bags and keep them in there with the brine. Be sure to add the brine to whatever you're removing and putting them in the fridge. That vessel needs to have the brine in there with it. I do it in the bags because we tend to go in daily and grab them and eat them. They're just a great snack. So there it is. It's that simple to have that old-fashioned flavor. If you ever went to the deli and had that pickle spear on the side of your yummy pastrami sandwich, I'm getting hungry. This is the recipe that'll get you there and remind you of those days. So I really appreciate you watching. If you haven't watched before, check out this video and be sure to subscribe.